Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
We earned it by winning the last 2 matches on the road, and that's not going to be taken away from us.
But what I love in hurling, I love players that will never give in.
He hits it. He hits it. It's over the bar. Oh, holy Moses.
Hello, welcome to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. Mikey Stafford here. I am being joined by Rory O'Neill and Éamonn Fitzmaurice to look back on 2 Gaelic football provincial finals, and Shane McGrath, as always on a Monday, will be along later to trawls for the ashes of the one hurling match that was on all weekend, feast or famine. That's the way we have it in this time of the year. Anyway, Éamonn, how are you keeping?
Good, Mikey. How's the farm?
Sure, I'm all right. Rory, how are you?
Very good, very good. Really enjoyed football yesterday, the Connacht final, and I'm sure we'll get into it. It was just, what a game of football. What a brilliant, brilliant game of football, start to finish. It was just a magnificent occasion. And like, I'm not just saying this because Éamonn is on, but football feels like it's really back. We're still 2 provincial finals out. And look at all the brilliant games we've had already this year before we even get to the group stages or the knockouts of the All-Irelands. And that, to me, is down to the rules. The rules has been a liberation, and I just think we got the best example of it yesterday. It wasn't without controversy, but it was just a Connacht final to savour.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wasn't going to start with this, but I don't want Éamonn getting a big head, so I'm going to come in with a query, an observation on the new rules. It was mentioned on the Sunday game last night. It was mentioned in commentary. People saying the umpires may be messed up with that 2-pointer where the O'Donoghue free from outside the arc, which kind of at least got a touch on. Was it behind the had it gone over the bar by the time he touched it? That's not my question. Is that not just a really stupid rule? Like, should it matter if the goalkeeper touches the ball or not? The player has kicked the ball over the bar from outside the arc. Should that not be 2 points? If someone kicks the ball over the bar from inside the arc and the keeper touches it, it's not half a point. It's a point. So I'm just wondering what the rationale is behind it, Éamonn, because to me it just doesn't make sense. I think it's
what if it drops short, Mikey?
Too much credit.
What if it drops short and someone punches it over, in flight? Does that just become a 1-pointer then? Because it's the same thing, is it not?
Well, it's the goalkeeper in the act of saving it, not saving it. That to me, I can't understand why that's not 2 points, and that's not even getting into the fact that there are complications around it, in terms of officiating. Is that the reasoning, Éamonn? Is it just to just have one rule so it avoids confusion about who gets a touch on it from inside the arc?
You're fine and cranky this morning, Mikey.
I had my daughter's communion yesterday, Éamonn. I haven't had enough sleep.
That's a cause for celebration. I've that coming up next weekend, Mikey. No, look, absolutely. I suppose there's a lot you can say about that particular incident. Obviously, it was a significant incident in the game at the time of the game, the flow of the game, everything else. You have to give huge credit to Conor Gleeson, that he managed to get a touch on it. He understood the rules. Stephen Cluxton did something similar in Portlaoise last weekend where he got a touch on one of the long 2-pointers to bring it back down to the 1 as well. It did look, I didn't think it was as conclusive maybe as some people are saying. It did look as if it was all the way over the bar when Conor Gleeson actually managed to get the touch on it. So it should have been 2 in that case, and that's an officiating mistake. But the rationale, Mikey, is what you're after, and basically, it is what Rory said. We had a lot of debate around this particular one, and it was trying to write a rule in terms of how far out do you allow a touch. Like Rory said, that if it comes in and it's just dropping barely short, a full forward and a full back are competing for it, and it's added to, even if it's only a very slight touch and it goes over the bar. Is that still a 2-pointer? If it's the far there, we debated whether it should be just if one of the backs touches it, it can stay as the 2-pointer. But then that if you have that situation where a full forward and a full back are jumping, who got the final touch on it? And it was to try and make it as clean as possible and to make it easier from an officiating perspective. Now we saw yesterday, what can happen. in that kind of a situation. And I know there was commentary around you'd hate to see that being a deciding factor in a game, in any game, but especially in games later on in the championship, in the knockout championship games. And look, the way we're approaching all this stuff as in terms of the FRC is anything that emerges like that incident yesterday, we're discussing it, seeing if there's something in it for us, seeing if it's something that we need to consider down the road again. But that was the rationale, Mikey. It was how, like, to me, if a ball's kicked from outside the arc and the full forward punches it over the bar without it touching the ground, well, that becomes a one-pointer. But writing that in rule in terms of how do you decide how significant a touch is in terms of it going from a 2 to a 1 and so on. So that was the rationale. But as I said, we saw the situations that can crop up in Castlebar yesterday.
Am I the only person who's complained about this, Éamonn, or is it?
I'm sure Mayo are complaining.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I suppose we've taken a lot of the goalkeepers' roaming abilities away from them, so
sure they can save points now as well as goals.
Yeah, exactly. We're giving them something to cling on to. Yeah. Okay, look, on a wider point, obviously, and this was a Connacht final of some import. Obviously, Galway doing it 4 in a row for the first time since I think the 1960s. Rory, I think what we saw here are probably two things we already knew, but I guess they were compounded and they were kind of hit home for us. One is Galway's squad depth is probably unmatched. You could argue Armagh, the injuries they've had to deal with and that they've managed to negotiate are up there. But Galway, without their two quote unquote marquee forwards, and they were still able to bring on 4 or 5 subs, like having Peter Cook to come on for the last 10 minutes of a match like that. Like who else would you want to come on? That's immense. So there's that. And there's also the fact that Mayo have a fatal flaw. Like they cannot close out games, and the reason they cannot close out games is because teams know that if they seem to know that if they absolutely clog up their defense as best as you can under the new rules, Mayo struggled for a 2-pointer. Mayo struggle. If you tie up Ryan O'Donoghue, there is a question about who is going to kick that clutch score for Mayo.
They have they've always struggled, I suppose, a wee bit for that sort of really classy out and out forward. That's a historical thing going back I don't know how long, but they generally have enough athleticism, they have enough quality right across the field to give themselves a foothold in any game. And I think if you look at like yesterday's game for me played out sort of in 4 chapters. The first chapter, Mayo started the first 10 or 15 minutes really well. They were like playing into the wind. They were a massive business. They scored a really good goal, very well worked. You couldn't fault Johnny McGrath. It was just a really worked goal. And no, they were still struggling at that stage to, like, their scores, the 2 points that they got were dead balls. So I don't think they scored a point from play until the 34th minute. By which time, Galway then, chapter 2, took over. And just like there was a streakiness to the way they were playing then with the wind. Conroy was kicking 2-pointers like they were going out of fashion.
It's insane, actually. I know he had a strong wind with him, but there's like no backlift.
Wind or no wind. He kicked one from outside the 45 where he dummy soloed on his right foot and then kicked it over from his left foot. And I'd say if you take as the crow flies, that was easily over 50 meters. I mean, with a wind or no wind, this was an extraordinary kick. Like it was like only Paul Conroy could do something like this. Maybe Clifford. But then chapter 3 then was the comeback, and that obviously got them back into the game. Now people will say the closing chapter, the end of the game, is where Mayo fall flat. But I often wonder, and again, look, Éamonn will absolutely know this from having been a manager. They expend so much energy to re-establish themselves in the game, to get that comeback, to like. They were to 8, 9, 10 points down, so they've managed to pull back level. I wonder, do you run out of juice at that stage to really go on then, to have the impetus and have the energy and have the composure when you're so tired to really go on and try and eke out the victory at that stage? I sometimes wonder. Look, there might be a bit of white line fever as well. They were really unlucky with a couple of brilliant chances. Gleeson made an incredible save from Hessian. as he was clean through 1v1. And myself and Éamonn were speaking about it afterwards or before we came on, and like I would have been reminded of Gooch in those situations. Gooch would always slide the ball in and roll it into a corner. So
I'm not trying to have a go at Conor Gleeson here this morning. I know I've already had a go at
it was a nice height for him.
It was a lovely height for him.
It was a nice height for him. Yeah,
as someone who is a terrible Gaelic football goalkeeper, of no renown, they were the ones I actually saved. Yeah. That was just the height you wanted.
But Mikey, this game had everything. It was a brilliant game. It was like a hurling match. That's the best compliment that you could pay it, because
there you go, Éamonn. You've turned football into hurling. Well done.
There was madness in it. It was drifting one way to the other, and just like a great hurling match, you get to the last 8, 9, 10 minutes. The game's in the melting pot, and who can go and grab it? That's all you want, and that's what we got, and we got it in spades. It was a marvellous game of football, and you would have to say, look, to be fair to Galway, they probably deserved it on the day. You mentioned about their squad depth, that they do have. Some of their key players, I mean, John Maher probably didn't really feature all that well. You know, there's more in him. We obviously haven't seen the two lads, and then the Comer would come straight back in, you would wonder. But look, I think it was a really good win for Galway. They have a nice little group now to face into, but I'm sure they'll go in with plenty of confidence. But I think, look, the game was a victory for football for me anyway, and it was just one that I loved watching from start to finish.
They have a lot of grit about them, Éamonn, don't they? For all, like, we do talk about their ability to rack up a score, Galway, but defensively they take a lot of joy in defending, which is always nice to see. Like that Dylan McHugh block at the end was marvelous. Like they have
what a block, that was.
They don't seem to have many weaknesses, Éamonn. I think if we're talking about like our runners and riders for this year, Sam Maguire, it's hard to look at Galway and say, well, they definitely could win it if there don't seem to be many ifs around Galway this year, is there?
No, very few, Mikey. The only if is getting it done. That's the last if.
It's kind of the biggest if, but yeah.
They have. I've been so impressed. I was at their semi-final game. I think they've added variety. We've mentioned Conor Gleeson a few times. You know, a couple of years ago, I remember after the was that the quarter final in 22, where, he flapped at a few balls at the end of the game, and it kind of brought Armagh back into it, and it ended up going to penalties. And not that he was viewed as a weakness at the time, but he was probably unproven still at that stage. But he's come on so much in the meantime, and he's so central to everything they do in terms of the length and accuracy of his kickouts, and then the saves, even good height or not, it was still, again at the stage of the game, it was a great save for him. Dylan McHugh's block, Kieran Malloy had a great block. You can see they're taking fierce pride in their defending. The form and fitness of the likes of Killian McDade, he was just outstanding yesterday, especially when the game became a battle, both early in the first half when they were struggling a bit. Himself and Conroy were very prominent, and then as well in the end game when they were trying to go and win it, he was outstanding in that phase as well. So they absolutely have, Mikey. And I think, like, the thing with the groups and the group of death and all of this, there's a couple of things with it. Obviously, while there is a hidden jeopardy in terms of the preliminary quarter final and trying to avoid that and trying to get straight into the quarter final and all of that, Galway have been in the group of death every year of this particular format, and so have Armagh. And
Kerry have not.
But Rory, since this format has come in, it's not a coincidence that those teams are the teams now with the deepest squads. That we're talking about them having huge chance. Both Armagh and Galway of having huge chances in terms of going to win the All-Ireland. Armagh again, Galway for the first time in a long time, because they've had to develop these deep squads, and both teams have been crippled with injuries at different times. So again, they've had to play the players, which has forced along development. And if Galway can get everyone back fit, they have a seriously deep squad with a variety of play defensively on their kickouts. I think with Armagh, they're probably the best on their own kickout. They're a nightmare to play against in terms of the opposition kickout. We saw it force Colm Reap into that mistake, probably because Galway had so many big men out the field at that stage. Peter Cook was on the pitch at that stage. He was trying to force a short one, which probably wasn't on, and it was a big moment in the game. So, they look, to answer your question, Mikey, Galway are in rude health, and they're men on a mission. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, like Mikey, I get a real sense. There's a lot of comparables between Galway right now and the Cork team of the late noughties, where Cork lost 2 All-Ireland finals in a 3-year period, and they kind of came back in year 4, we'll say, on that cycle, and it just kind of said, like, it's now or never. And I'd say there's that sense of realization within the Galway panel as well. They won't get too many more chances with a group this gifted, with a management like that. They really do. This is it now for them, and they have everything. They have all the raw materials there, but it's not going to be easy, and neither should it be. But just to go back there on Éamonn's, there's 2 things as well from the game that jumped out at me yesterday. Firstly, I don't believe in this. Was the penalty soft or harsh? A penalty is either a penalty or it's not a penalty. I don't think you can have, it was on the soft side or it was on the harsh side. It was not a penalty.
It was not a penalty.
It was not
the second
a penalty.
cousin of a penalty.
Yeah, it was not a penalty, and it shouldn't have been awarded. And it was a very, very harsh. It was a very tough decision on Mayo at that point. The second thing, to go back to Éamonn's point about the kickouts, I was actually sitting here and I was going, "Don't go short. Please don't go short. Just lamp the ball out, get it away. You're level now. Don't take a chance. Please don't." Next thing, I was going, "Oh my God, black card." Next thing, ball over the bar. It just wasn't the time. I know they were getting monstered out around the middle, but so what? It's a long way to work a score in from the Galway half-back line at that stage.
And you know, another thing on those, Rory, and I'm surprised we haven't seen this yet. Yeah. In that situation, I know Rory Brickenden was at the wrong side. He's actually better off touching the ball. A back is actually better off touching the ball inside the arc. Give away the 1 point free.
Yeah,
it's going to be a free from inside the arc because the back has touched it, rather than letting the forward win it and go for goal. Or as happened yesterday, it was a double whammy. They gave away the point, which is.
Black card. Down to 14 players length for the last 10 minutes.
That was the killer. That was the killer.
This is like the principal giving you the answer before you go in for your leaving cert here. This is like FRC member and school principal Éamonn Fitzmaurice tells you how to cheat the rules. Well, not cheat the rules, but you're right, Éamonn. It's a lesser penalty. It does make sense. Yeah. But I can imagine Brickenden's brain was fried at that point. He's like, the ball. Absolutely. I'm not going to touch the ball. He just did nothing. And then you wouldn't like to be in a situation there now. That's jeopardy whichever way you turn. I suppose next then, Éamonn, is obviously for Galway, it's Dublin in Pearse Stadium, which it's a great game. Look, there's a very good chance the 2 of them are going to come out of that group in some way, shape or form. For Galway, it's a great game because they're on a high. It's at home. Win that one, and they'd have to think that they're on the road. For Dublin need to probably make a statement after losing in Leinster for the first time in 347 years. So they'll want, if they could get a result or even a credible performance against one of the All-Ireland favourites, they'll probably be coming out of Salt Hill feeling pretty good, even if they don't get the win.
Yeah, big time. It's a huge game, Mikey. It's look, that group is going to be, I think it's going to make the month of May for all football supporters. The games in that group are just going to be unbelievable. And the other group involving Donegal as well will be huge as well. But are involving the Ulster winners.
I was about to say, do you know something we don't know?
No, the Ulster losers. I actually fancy Armand that, but the Ulster winners and the Ulster losers are obvious. Their groups are going to be huge.
Yeah.
But the Dubs, they beat Galway in Croke Park during the league in what was a great game. I think it was Cluxton's first night back. Galway actually missed a lot that night. That was a night that he took off Shane Welch at half time, and Rob Finnerty was taken off, I think, around the same time, because Padre Joyce was annoyed with them at how much they'd missed scoring wise. So they'll at home in Salt Hill, they're very hard to beat up there, and they'll be relishing that battle. But those games, that group will definitely go down to the last day. And Derry, as well, being in that group. They'll have snuck off in the meantime. They've obviously had a very poor season so far, but they still have plenty of quality in that group. And if they've circled the wagons in that kind of off period, they'll be awkward opposition as well. So no, it'll make for fascinating viewing. Galway are in the crest of a wave at the moment, but they know everything they've done so far this season counts for naught. Now it's a new competition starting in effect, and they have to hit the goal switch again.
Yep. Okay, that's Connacht. Let's move on to the Munster final for a few minutes. Kerry 420, Clare 21 points. Rory, there'll be no shortage in the creameries in the Midwest. I say every cow in Clare was safely milked last night, as it has been every year since 1992.
I still think Clare can take some things from the game. They were never going to win. The Kerry are just playing at a higher level. They have so many players playing at a higher level. I'd say Joe O'Connor at this stage might be in the running for, well, like if you were to pick Footballer of the Year, he'd certainly be one of the nominees. He's been a revelation and in a position that was being depicted, I suppose, in some quarters as a problem area for Kerry, and that's before Dermot O'Connor comes back, excuse me. I think, look, from Kerry perspective, from Clare's, they beating Kerry in Killarney has been done once since 1995. Not easy. They were in the mood yesterday. It was a sunny day. The ball was moving quickly. They're at home. There's a big crowd. That spells trouble for nearly everyone going down to play Kerry. It's a tough.
You say big crowd. There was 13,000 people at the Munster final.
It's still look for we'll say a less glamorous fixture that the Munster final would ordinarily be. We'd say Cork Kerry. That would it wasn't. It felt like there was a reasonably good atmosphere. David took off. What did he score in the end? 2-5. I think from Clare's perspective, they took enough from that second half to park up now, move on into the group stages, and try and get something out of their season there. From a Kerry perspective, I think there was maybe a little bit of uncertainty around the performance against Cork the last time. I think the conditions obviously played a huge factor there. We can see what they can do when the conditions are much more benign. And I think, look, it was just business as usual from a Kerry perspective. They'll move on and we're back up to Páirc Uí Chaoimh again, Éamonn.
How are you going to yerry your way out of this one, Éamonn, now? What were the fatal flaws you saw in Kerry's performance?
Look, I saw Jack saying this morning, Mikey, that you'd be a hard taskmaster if you were giving out about the performance yesterday, but by Tuesday night when he's doing the video, he will be giving out about aspects of it because look, that's the nature of the beast. They'll be looking for improvements. I think what they'll be most
Clare scored 21 points, Éamonn. That's
absolutely. And Clare won the second half. It had almost become a challenge match at that stage. But I think what they'll be most happy with, Mikey, is Kerry would have been focusing on getting a good start, coming out of the traps, setting the tone for the game and making sure they weren't giving Clare belief and kind of, allowing them a chance to have a foothold in the game. And they did that from the off. They won the throw and Shawnee Shea kicked a 2-pointer from within 30 seconds and they just went from there. And then once the goals started going in, that was that. I think when they're being fussy and when they're starting to really critique their own performance, the 21 points they look at, they were sloppy up front at times, which seems very harsh considering they scored 421, but there was some of the final passes that they were forcing it a bit, it was turned over. And, against a better team that could have countered quicker, it could have been costly. But look, overall, it was job done for Kerry. They won the Munster final. They've won the National League. They're into the All-Ireland Group Series. Their first game at home is against Roscommon. They'll be looking forward to that now. I think, for me, the key difference between Kerry this time this year versus this time last year is an awful lot of the lads are playing well. They're playing, 7, 8, 9 out of 10. Whereas last year, a lot of them at this stage were playing 5, 6 out of 10. They were just looking for a bit of form. They weren't quite playing with the confidence maybe and the fluency that they can play with. But a lot of them are playing really well, and they just look good at the moment, and that's that's a positive for Kerry, and for the next couple of weeks they just have to try and beat whatever's in front of them. But there will be battles along there, and that the Páirc Uí Chaoimh game, obviously Roscommon first game up is all they're going to be focusing on, but that game above in Páirc Uí Chaoimh will have a real edge to it now, because Cork will be believing that they should have won the first day out. Kerry will be forewarned that, of the qualities of Cork, and hopefully it'll lead to the kind of battles that used to be there 10 or so years ago, and from there back for the previous 10 years, where those games were really 50-50, and there was a good physical edge to them as well. So looking forward to the group series. Job done, Mikey, and weather is good in Kerry again today, so we're happy out.
You can tell that this is actually going to be an all-timer of an All-Ireland group stage, because it's dead. It's been voted out. We've already got some pretty good draws. You can tell it's actually going to be a clinker this year. It's going to be no, it's gone now. That's it. Because that's how things work. Rory, David Clifford, a quote-unquote return to form, 2-5. Although you have to say that first goal, I do not know how it went in. Complete miskick, and the defender on the line just got his legs in the muddle. I don't know how. It was harder to let that one in than to stop it, I thought. But he looked very good. Maybe his brother stealing some of his thunder is getting to him, so not having Paddy around let David loosen up a bit.
And that's probably what led to some of the, I suppose, maybe I wouldn't necessarily call it sloppy play that they had. Like, when Paddy's not there, I mean, look, you're talking the greatest heads-up footballer that's probably in Gaelic football at the minute. And the rules have been a liberation for Kerry too. They have been a huge, huge help insofar as it's allowed them to revert back to some of the more traditional and cultural aspects to what we would associate with their football, which is kicking the ball and moving it extremely quickly. Lots of pace, lots of runners, lots of movement in lots of different directions. And, it can be quite a joy to watch, two bangs, one left, one right, and next thing the ball is over the bar. And I think that'll pose, because we have to bear in mind this is only year one of these rules, so it's going to take a while for people to deprogram or sort of defrost themselves out of the way Gaelic football had been played for the last 10 years. And I think as things evolve over the summer, I think teams will become much more fluent, and there'll be a lot more fluidity in the play. And I think when we get to Croke Park for quarterfinal, semi-final, I think the rules will have very much bedded in at that stage, particularly for the top teams. And Kerry will, if Kerry, they will be extremely difficult to beat, because this is just going to come down to who has the best footballers, and they will always believe that they have the best 15.
They might have two good footballers too many in a similar position, Éamonn. What do you do with an informed Sean O'Shea and Paddy Clifford? How do you, they both naturally probably, they're 11s of a kind of maybe two different styles, you could say, but Paddy has been kind of playing in that kind of pivot role, if you want to use that phrase. When Paddy comes back and Sean is there, it's one of the best problems you can have in Gaelic football. But I'm just wondering, if you were in Jack O'Connor's shoes, how would you deal with that one?
I think they can both play there in effect, Mikey. I mean, the way Paddy plays the game anyway, he'll be all over the place. Shawnee, is capable. He can play midfield. He can play inside. He can play, as he did for spells yesterday. He can play outside. He can play wide. He'll basically do whatever you want. So he could be nominally playing at 12, but playing a kind of a further up centre forward role from there. Paddy going off doing his thing and having the freedom. So I don't think the numbers in the back are going to make too much of a difference to them, really. That they both can. It's a great luxury for Kerry to have the two centre forward players, but two kind of contrasting styles with regard to that role as well. So no, I don't think I think that's a good headache to have, Mikey.
Oh, absolutely.
If they needed to play, let's say if Shawnee was playing 12 and he needed to play 12 and needed to play a wide 12, depending on the way the opposition was playing, he'd be able to play that role, no problem.
Yeah. I hope he was telling the truth, Rory, when Paul Gainey said, kind of, it's one of those stock answers you give, but he said something along the lines of, we'll enjoy tonight now, and then we'll think about the next game after that. Will they enjoy tonight? I'll ask Éamonn in a second because he could probably actually answer it. But do you think, Rory, in this modern age, Shane McGrath was writing about it in his column a couple of weeks ago about how hurlers don't have a chance to scratch themselves now, never mind go for a pint. Do you think Kerry footballers are still going out and having a few pints to toast a Munster final win?
Well, I suppose it would.
They
I
are,
think.
they are,
I'd
definitely.
say they would. Like, I mean, look, they don't have a game. What is it for 2-3 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So I suppose they're down in Killarney. It's a party town. We all
Bank
know,
holiday weekend.
right? It's a party town. The sun was shining. It's such a brilliant place to be. You've just won another Munster title. I would say they were going mad now. But I would imagine, they would have went out.
They would, but the thing has changed. The culture has changed, lads. I mean, back when we were playing, it was a different world. It'd be the Sunday night, and there'd be a gathering on the Monday, and so on. It was great crack, but it mightn't have been great for the body. But the games weren't coming as thick and fast back then. But
and you always celebrated a Munster Championship, Éamonn.
Well, they were hard. They were harder to win back then.
We celebrated less, Mikey. I can guarantee you. There was times we celebrated when there was no need to be out at all, and consoled ourselves in defeat as well, plenty of times. But I would imagine to be fair to the lads, they're so professional with the way they mind themselves. They tip away with a few bottles of beer, but I would think that'd be very important in terms of
big time.
Being for the spirit of the group and time in each other's company and having a bit of crack away from the seriousness of the real business. So 100% I'd say they would, and it's either that or go rallying in Killarney this weekend, Mikey. So I'd say they'd have had a few bottles of beer, all right.
Yeah, that's the safer choice. Okay, well, thank you to party animal Éamonn Fitzmaurice. We'll be back to talk more football. The novel Leinster and interesting Ulster final on Thursday, and we'll get the monkish Shane McGrath on now. I'm sure Shane has had nothing but green tea and rice cakes for the weekend because he's a former intercounty hurler. Éamonn, we'll chat to you again soon.
See you, lads.
We're back with Shane McGrath. Shane, we were just chatting with Éamonn Fitzmaurice there on the football show about how he reckons the Kerry footballers would have gone out and celebrated their provincial final success over Clare last night, even though they win it pretty much every year. I was just telling him how the life of an intercounty footballer and intercounty hurler, they're very different now. Hurlers, it's nothing but, foam rollers and a cup of tea, maybe an episode of something on Netflix, and to bed by 7:30.
I suppose the footballers will be the same. I suppose when they get to the group stages of their championship. But as I said to you before, Mikey, I think the crack is kind of gone over it now unless you're winning. And I think they'd be dead right to go anyway. When you're winning anything, Munster Championship, Leinster Championship, Connacht, Ulster, whatever it is, I think you have to go out and celebrate it. Have a bit of downtime, unwind. But I'd say the football lads will probably be the same now as the hurling lads with the round robin when they get to their group stage as well. But such are the demands now, aren't they?
Yeah, I would say that, but then we only have one match to talk about. You go from being absolutely slammed the week before to having one game, and you've got one team coming off a 2-week break and one team coming off a 6-week break, and I'm not sure how big an impact that had, Shane. I do think we looked at Limerick here. This is, I hate to say return to form. It's not like they've been playing like a drain all year, but this looked like, Limerick have put their best players in their best positions, and they're back playing the way they've won all their All-Irelands by trying to score 30 points. Let's not worry too much about scoring goals. And I don't think even a completely rested Waterford, having had 2 weeks off as well, would have lived with them. What do you think?
Yeah, I was down there doing the radio, Mikey, and to be honest, for me, they never really got out of, I suppose, fourth gear was maybe as high as they had to go. They just looked to be very, very comfortable. I was kind of disillusioned by the way maybe Waterford set up, by the amount of time they gave them on the ball at the back to work out scores. Even talking to some Waterford people there after the game down there, they couldn't understand it either. They just allowed Limerick, I suppose, to set up at the back and to build a play, and they didn't push them, and maybe they felt by sitting back and covering off space or trying to cut off space that that would be better. But when you have the likes of Barry Nash and these guys who were getting time on the ball, they were able to pick out very precision passes into Aaron Gillan, into Shane O'Brien. And like, to be honest, Mikey, like that game probably could have and should have been over at half time. I know that might be sound hard to believe when Waterford brought it back to a couple of points in the second half, but like Limerick could have had 2:18 on the board at half time because they hit the post. Aaron Gillane had a goal chance, the ball just popped out of his hand. They had a few scandalous wides by their high standards, like, and I just think they did what they had to do, and they never had to get to top gear to do it. Like, and like for me, as you said, structurally, I thought they were way better. I thought Dan Morrissey was brilliant at fullback. First 4 or 5 balls came in, he won them, and he kind of set the tone for the rest of the team. Kyle Hayes is very solid at 6. Will O'Donoghue, although the midfielders as a whole, like the 4 midfielders got taken off. I haven't seen that in a while now in Championship hurling. Like 2 midfielders on their side and 2 midfielders on the Limerick side. For one reason or another, I suppose Walsh Park, maybe as a midfielder, it kind of can bypass you that section of the field. Like, but all the 4 midfielders.
Why is that, Shane?
I just feel that the pitch is a bit smaller, Mikey, and because of that, like puck out wise, like most puck outs from inter-county goalies are probably dropping inside opposite 45.
Going even further in Walsh Park.
Yeah. And it plays smaller, and there wasn't a lot of stuff going through midfielders, so they didn't have that big influence on the game as maybe as a midfielder normally would have.
Yeah.
And I have like, even take for Will O'Donoghue, for example, he got taken off about minute 55, 56. And I haven't seen that in a long time now from him. But that was just the kind of game it was. But I just felt that Limerick were at their ease now, to be honest. They could have scored 4 goals really. So it's kind of, I don't know what to say, it's worrying for the rest of us. But I do feel that they are getting back to what we normally are used to seeing them, Mikey. And I think themselves in Cork, it's just going to be it's set up for an unbelievable game. Pat Ryan was sitting just beside us actually at the match, so
Penny first thoughts.
Yeah, taking a few notes, I'm sure, and just maybe what worked for Waterford against them, what didn't work. But what would he have learned from it? I don't know because as I said, I think Limerick were at their ease in the game. Like,
yeah, Rory, like you do feel like John Kiley, he was under pressure this year to probably take a look at a lot of those young lads coming in, and with the likes of Declan Hannon kind of going, kind of fitness and other things kind of catching up on him. Like he had the opportunity to experiment, and he did experiment, and he tried different lads in different positions, and like he seems to have landed somewhere now. When you look at that spine, you got Quaid, Morrissey, Kyle Hayes, then Will O'Donoghue, and of course Adam English is one of those kind of newbies, shall we say, who's got into that spine. And then you've got Cian Lynch at 11, which is where everybody thought he should be playing. And then you have Shane O'Brien, again, one of the newbies who's full forward. Like that, he has his spine now, and you feel like he's very happy with that. And that's not to say the lads on the flanks are filling jerseys or anything, but he just, the way that Shane O'Brien played, like he does bring something different, and it shows that it's worked for Kiley. He's experimented through the league, and he's given these young lads their head, and now he's found a new starting midfielder, and he has now a big man up front, which, as we've seen with other teams, is the way hurling seems to be going. So it's very important.
Yeah, I think the bounce that he's gotten out of the new players is probably about enough of what he might have been looking for, because he knows with like I would make Limerick favourites to win everything. Because what I saw on Saturday night is a real return to the kind of like this time last year, it was a case of can anybody beat them? You have to bear that in mind. There was a little bit of a dip through the course of this year's league. They were trying different things and trying players in different positions. But once everybody goes back into the tried and trusted and their traditional kind of team selection, like there was a real menace again about the way the team was set up, the power that they have, the athleticism that they have. I thought Waterford were a little bit naive, let's be honest. You cannot leave Cian Lynch loose. You just can't do that. And like, yes, he put on like one of these Cian Lynch displays. I mean, there was a bounce pickup, a no-look hand pass on another stage, a little kind of a threaded, it was like a slide rule pass that you get in soccer.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this guy is a genius. You cannot leave him loose. And you asked was the chain said penny for Pat Ryan's thoughts. Well, I can guarantee you the one thing Pat Ryan left Walsh Park was
Mark Keane Lynch.
Keane Lynch is going to have somebody tagging him from start to finish. You just can't do that. Now, I know, look, they were trying to sit Tyke in front of, to give Conor Prunty that little bit of extra protection, because Shane O'Brien is a weapon, and they maybe didn't trust Shane O'Brien to manage the situation on a 1v1. But you give up too much at the other end. And Shane mentioned there about Limerick being at their ease. It felt like a boxer kind of keeping a sort of a lower weight at distance. They never really looked like they were in trouble. When Waterford got a bit of a run on, Limerick were able to kind of pull away again. And I think Limerick are really back. I think they will. You could hear John Kiley issuing the war cry for the supporters to be coming out in a couple of weeks' time for the Gaelic rounds. Like, yeah, Limerick have gone nowhere.
Yeah, it really is, and I always thought it would be the matchup with Cork and Limerick this year. Shane, is that Cork's attack has obviously been like immense, and obviously they had a one-man advantage in their last day out, but like their ability to score goals, their ability to kind of keep the scoreboard moving is what's making them a lot of people's All-Ireland favourites. You look at that Kilkenny that Limerick backline now, there's a Freudian slip. You look at that Limerick backline now, Shane, and you're thinking they'll absolutely relish that challenge now of like, okay, so Cork are this, they're the free score, they're the goal scoring, Harlem Globetrotters of Munster hurling. Well, let's see how they get on against us now in the Gaelic grounds.
I think Rory's right though, as well. Like I think people have to remember that in the All-Ireland semi-final last year, like Cork had to be 7 or 8 points a better team to win by 1.
Yeah.
And like that was Limerick without a few key players, one of them being Barry Nash. And I just think when you see him out in the half back line, what he can give you, because of his ball striking, like this guy is so comfortable in the forwards. He would have played a lot of his hurling in the forwards, like underage and stuff for Limerick. And even for his club, he'd be further up the field. He might be midfield or centre forward. So what he's given him out the halfback is really quality ball in. He's really comfortable on the ball. He's a very physical guy as well, like all the Limerick halfback line. And even like the other day, lads, you probably seen it yourselves now, but like Dermot Burns had to come off inside 20 minutes, but it was just purely tactical because he was very close to getting sent off because he was on a yellow, a high challenge in as well. And I think it was just the thing that they had to get him off maybe before. But
Shane, just on that, and you know what I noticed, like sometimes when a player's taken off, when he's playing as well as Burns was playing, and he's taken off, we'll say 20 minutes into a game, the player his body language coming off can sometimes reveal his displeasure or his unhappiness. But you could see him, like John Kiley went over, he was explaining to him, he was nodding, he kind of high-fived Kiley as he was coming off. Like there's a unity there again. These guys are very, very motivated. He understood. Yeah, this is for the team. Limerick are, to me, there is a worry now for everyone else because Limerick are certainly in this championship in a big way.
He knew, and he was very content even on the bench and just seeing him there at half time. He was chatting away to the rest of the boys. There was no issue. He knew he had to come off for the good of the team. Colin Coughlin came on and did very well, I thought, as well.
Very well.
How does that work, Shane? Sorry, just the question that popped into my head now. I know you were never taken off after 20 minutes, but you know the way the lads, the unused subs and the lads who only kind of get on for 5 or 10 minutes, as soon as the match is over, they have to go and do sprints or whatever, Yeah. Would Dermot Burns have had to do that, having sat on the bench for 50 minins? Would he have gone and had to go and do extra running because he'd only played 20 minutes?
I think because he's Dermot Burns, maybe he didn't. But I think, he has so much money in the bank in terms of performances down through the years. But I think another guy probably would. I'd say, like you take like Aidan O'Connor now came on and probably played for a similar time, but he would have had to do the runs there afterwards on the pitch down in Walsh Park, and all the rest of the unused subs will say as well. So No, I think when you're dealing with Burns, I think you're good. You don't you don't have to do those runs like. But yeah, I just thought it was a very interesting call. It was for the good of the team, and as I said, there was no claims from Dermot Burns. But like you talked about Cian Lynch, Rory there as well. Like, and I just think what he has and what he does with the ball. I honestly don't feel you can teach anybody what Cian Lynch does.
Shane, it's so funny, right? So I'm coaching under 11s. I actually clipped up loads of little different things that he's done. I have a little video now that I'm going to show them, and I just say, look, just sit down, watch this, and enjoy.
Yeah,
break your wrists trying to do some of that stuff.
That's it. Like, it's like you just have to admire him. Like, and even other inter-county players, you'll be chatting to him, maybe meet him out now and again, and like they just say like what he does in a ruck. I don't think anybody else can do. Like, his ability to roll lift, his ability to get the ball, his ability to see a pass before he has the ball in his hand.
See the bounce pickup. Like, you see tennis players doing it with a tennis ball and a racket with a big... And he's doing that with a hurley and a slitter in the middle of...
And you can't, he's like... He's such a low center of gravity as well in terms of the way he positions himself over the ball, the way he gets down, that squat position. His legs are so powerful, his upper body strength is immense. You can't even knock him off the ball. I've seen, you watch lads there and they're trying to come in and maybe a third guy comes in and tries to shove him off and just doesn't faze him. And his ability then to come out of that ruck with the ball. He's a generational player. And again, he was for me, he was Limerick's best player again the other day. He was Limerick's best player against Tip. And if he keeps in open this vein of form, him or Brian Hayes at the moment, you'll be talking about hurlers of the year if those guys keep going into the way they are, lads.
Yeah. The best compliment I could pay Cian Lynch is that every single game he does at least one thing that you have no idea what he's done until you watch it back 2 or 3 times.
That's
there's always one skill he does where you're like,
you kind of have to rewind it and go, did he actually do that?
Gerard Hegarty had his moment in fairness as well. It was a fantastic block by Colin Coughlin, and then Gerard Hegarty did that kind of chop lift, where he actually managed to go around the defender while doing the chop lift, which is just phenomenal. And then he put it over from 75 yards.
Gerard Hegarty has this like spiritual connection with the Limerick fans.
Yeah.
Not every player has it, but they love Gerard Hegarty. And the roar that went up, I think that was around minute 54. I think it made it 23 points to 16 at the time. The game was probably done really anyway, but the roar that went up was one of the biggest roars of the day. And I suppose he showed us that he's not gone away either, but he's not maybe having that full match performances that we're used to seeing from Gerard, but he still has these moments of brilliance, catches, and like if you watch that back, like we're always talking about Keane doing it, but Gerard never broke stride either. His momentum kept going. He didn't even have to break stride. The skill to flick it up, to keep going without breaking stride, without breaking momentum, and to put it over the bar then was just the icing on the cake. Like, but that was as a result of ferocious work rate by 3 or 4 of the Limerick guys, Colin getting the block in, the ball breaking for the road, and that was one of, if not the biggest roar of the day down in Walsh Park from the Limerick crowd anyway, Mikey.
It is. It was just one of those scores from the block to the chop lift to score. It was just one of those ones that gets you out of your feet, off your seat. Finally then, on this match, Rory, Mickey Quaid, another 70 minutes. The man, like, is he bionic? What's going on? This is like this one doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry.
He needs some recovery especially for a goalkeeper and given the vintage that he's now at. And I think all their John Kiely referenced him as well in the aftermath, just what he's done to get him back and to get himself back as quickly as he has. And I'd say that game, considering it was only a second match back, will have brought him on a ton. I think, look, Limerick are in unbelievable working order now. And they've got most of the big guys that would have experienced injuries, Declan Hannon aside. Like, if you look at it, Sean Finn was out there missed a long period through a very serious injury. Mickey Quaid, obviously. Cian Lynch missed an All-Ireland final. Everybody is there now, and everybody is on board. And I think John Kiely referenced their age profile. They're all still very young. by and large, and he's infused the team now with the likes of the Adam Englishes and the Shane O'Briens. So I think, look, they're in unbelievable nick, and it sets up the Gaelic grounds in 2 weeks' time. Like, wow, that place. I presume it's a sellout. I can't imagine it would be anything other than that. And two teams on 3 points now, basically going head to head, and chances are it won't be the last meeting between the two of them either.
Yeah. There's only the one men's match to discuss, but significant events before the Dublin Kilkenny Camogie match on Saturday. Shane, you're married to an All-Ireland Camogie winning player. You're also a principal of a national school. I'm wondering, what is your view on the skorts issue for those maybe who missed this, or maybe you're wondering, have heard the word skort and not sure what the story is. Last year's Camogie Congress, there was a couple of motions put to, one, to get rid of the skort altogether. A skort is like, it's somewhere between a skirt and shorts, as the name suggests. They're requirement to wear in Camogie, competitive Camogie matches. That motion was defeated. Another motion to give players the choice was narrowly defeated. So on Saturday, we had Dublin and Kilkenny players coming out in shorts for their match. Shorts, which basically every Camogie player wears for training. They don't wear skorts for training because they're not comfortable. And the referee told them the match should be abandoned unless they went back in and put on skorts, which they did eventually, and the match was played. Since then, there has been a lot of talk. We've had politicians getting involved. We've had retired and current Camogie players coming out and having their speak. And the sense you get, Shane, is that most people who step foot on a Camogie pitch either think they shouldn't have to wear a skort, or they should have the option to wear a skort, but it shouldn't be obligatory. And the people in charge of administering the game seem to be the only people with the opposite opinion. That seems to be where we're at the moment, is it?
The whole thing is a joke, Mikey, in this day and age, like, to be honest. Like, my own wife's opinion as a former inter-county player would be like, what are we at, like, nowadays, like that we're asking these players, like, to wear the skorts. Now, some Camogie players probably don't mind them, but the majority of them, Mikey, they just want to wear shorts. And I just think, like we've made so many changes in so many ways. As I said, like, I have 2 daughters myself, and if they want to wear shorts playing Camogie, it just should be that, and there should be no more questions about it. And I don't think this is down to the players. I don't think it's down to the choice of wearing a skirt or shorts. I think it's purely down to, Mikey, the people that they're sending up to represent them to vote in these conventions. And that's where the change needs to come in. Because if they're putting it to a vote, the association is giving them the option of voting against this and voting it out. So it's the people that are continuously voting for these things. That's where the change needs to come in. They, like, whoever is representing the county boards or representing these players going up to conventions, that's where the change needs to be. The people that are going up and voting for it and are keeping it in and keeping this in and keeping it being discussion. Like, isn't it a joke, like, that in 2025 that this is happening, that officials are saying we're going to have to call off or postpone the game because of a piece of clothing that you're wearing. I don't think it would happen anywhere else in any other sport. And we're always on about equality in sport and stuff like this. And I'm all for that. Like, you know what I mean? We want the Camogie and the ladies footballers to get as much coverage and all that. We want to get the crowds to the games. But then you see these things happening, or you hear a Camogie match and a football match on at the same time, and 2 players can't go and play. They need to make the changes, and the changes need to be made with the people that are representing them up at these conventions and stuff.
Yeah.
Change the people going to those things, and I guarantee you'll see the change with all these rulings, Mikey.
You're right. I'm conscious this is 3 men talk about this issue, but we, like, Shane, you've a vested interest, and we can all kind of listen to sensible people on this. And Rory, the Dublin captain, Niamh Gannon, like, she's basically saying, we have players dropping out because they don't feel comfortable in it, they don't feel confident playing in them. So comfort and confidence, two important things if you're playing sport. And then, but you can see the moves being made in other sports. Rugby, soccer, they've allowed to the players to choose to wear dark shorts because of period concerns and things like this. So other sports are doing more and more, and yet Camogie this is the hill the Camogie administration seem prepared to die on. It's like almost like something from Father Ted or something like it. Like, it's so like almost comically antiquated at this point.
You mentioned Father Ted. I was when the story broke, it felt like something out of The Handmaid's Tale. You were kind of saying to yourself, "What the hell?" I mean, it's just such a non-issue, and for the Camogie Association now to once again be embroiled in the type of scandal like this shows that, like, look, it's so easy to fix this. Like, what is wrong with giving a player a choice? If whatever they're comfortable in to play sport, and if it means that one extra player doesn't drop out, like, why are you putting barriers in the way for young girls and young women to play sport? I do not understand that. And if this is a barrier, which some people don't like them or don't feel comfortable, it's also a financial imposition, right? So I have to get an extra bit of kit. Why can't I so if I'm playing club hurling or football for my club, so I buy a set of shorts, and so I can't use them now because I want to play camogie. Like, to my mind, that all of this is so nonsensical. But Shane's point is very, very well made here, and you can't give women a pass completely on this. More women need to get involved in administration roles. More women need to get involved in leadership roles. More women need to get involved in coaching, in refereeing. We need more women involved at the higher levels of officership, at the higher levels of the decision-making processes behind the games. And I think if there's more women involved in these areas, stuff like this just does not happen.
Yeah. I will just mention, for sake of fairness, Camogie Association did put out a statement where they said, as a working group has been established to examine the issues around the comfort, fit, design, and overall performance of wearing a skort, and they're testing some new models. And they did again say that voting delegates of Congress represent all the members of the association, including players and parents of players across the country. So in other words, they said, it was democratically voted down. That's a frustration, Shane, isn't it? Because your wife's camogie training or whatever this week, if democracy was speaking, the skort wouldn't be obligatory, and yet it won out in a vote at Congress last year.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, like, just change the people who are going to vote for these things, and make the representation a bit more on behalf of the players rather than on behalf of tradition. Like,
yeah,
absolutely. Well, I think the fact that one is now for leading TDs and senators to release statements will mean that there might be a little bit more pressure on the next set of delegates who are undoubtedly going to face another skort vote. Okay, that's it for today. We will be back on Thursday to preview the weekend's hurling, which is a little bit more going on. You got Clare and Tip in Munster, and Antrim Dublin, Kilkenny Offaly, and the crucial, undoubtedly the game of the weekend, Galway v Wexford. Because if either of them lose that one, they're in serious bother. So I think that's the game of the weekend. It's on RTÉ on Saturday. Anyway, I'm talking like it's Thursday and it's Monday, and it's a bank holiday Monday, so we'll let you back to it, Shane and Rory, and we'll chat to you all again soon. Thank you very much. Good luck and goodbye.